Okay, hello everybody. My name is Amanda, and thank you for attending the 10 Things You Need to Know About 3D Printing. Um, it's only 10 minutes, and it's a very topical topic that I'm sure you've been hearing a lot of buzz about. Um, there are people viewing this on YouTube, as well as people in the Google Hangout. So let's get started. Okay, so if you were looking at the flyer, you might have noticed something about a digital certificate. What you will receive for virtually attending this program is this techie badge for your efforts of learning more about 3D printing. Now the great thing about this is that you can put it on your LinkedIn page, you can put it in your resume, on your e-portfolio. It's something that's yours forever instead of just a tiny printout or a PDF of something. And it's something that you can showcase that you're keeping up with the trends and technology. So at the end of this program, you will get an email of your badge. Okay, so what is 3D printing? 3D printing is basically the process of making something three-dimensional from 2D to 3D. So this is just how it works. So you have first your digital plans that you scan through a 3D scanner, and then plastic goes over it and over it and over it until it becomes 3D. Then once it's 3D, they sand out the shape, and voila, you get your 3D product. Who is using it? There are tons of different varieties of industries that are using it right now. The medical industry is using it. Actually, there was a little boy who was just born who his life was pretty much saved because of a 3D printer. They used a 3D printer to create a trachea to help him breathe. Another industry that's using it is the car industry. Ford has decided to use 3D models to provide their customers with replacement parts instead of making parts right from the factory. Kids are using 3D printers. Places such as the Newark Museum have what they call these maker spaces where they have 3D printing available for kids and adults for free. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, higher education. It's opening up a wide variety of opportunities for students to create 3D models, for marketing, students to create prototypes of their products. The sky's the limit when it comes to 3D capabilities. So how is it used for fun? There are some opportunities now where individuals can buy 3D printers. And here are some of the things that you can make with a 3D printer right now at the very basic level. You can create phone cases, little trinkets, some useful stuff like cufflinks. I'm kind of small, but that's actually a mustache cufflink, as well as taking your kids' artwork and bringing it to life. So this is the drawing that a kid drew, and they scanned it, and now it's a 3D version of what someone's kid created. So how to use it for more practical things? A few ways are to create dinnerware. There's opportunities where people have created mugs and plates and forks, etc. Another thing is car parts. I had mentioned that earlier, but there are a lot of people who are now starting to create car parts. One example is Jay Leno actually created vintage parts for his vintage cars because these parts were so rare and so hard to find. He had the blueprints of the parts, and he used a 3D printer and he printed them. Another thing is little practical useful things, like in this picture here, it's a handle where you can place multiple shopping bags. So you can hold only one handle, and then it has all the multiple shopping bags. And another thing is really getting creative and creating adapters for certain things. So in this picture here, it's a toy adapter. So this dad, he created this adapter so that his son can use all of his train sets and all of his Legos at once. So these are two different brands of train sets, and it also works with Legos. So those are just a few examples of the practical ways to use the 3D printer. Another way is some people don't know how to use certain softwares, or they're not sure. So there are websites like this, Thingiverse, where you can download the template of whatever the object that you want to create in 3D. So this is a for free, and they have some for paid ones where you can pay to purchase it. So these are some options. Now there are some drawbacks and limitations to the 3D printing right now. One of the limitations is that in order to create more advanced things, you have to have a good, solid background in certain software such as AutoCAD. It's pretty much needed, unless you're going to some of the free places like the libraries or the museums that have professionals. Another thing is that it's very expensive to get the high quality ones. Some of these things are, $2,500 to ranging all the way up to $50,000 depending on your sizes of the things you want to create. One of the biggest limitations right now is the types of material that can be printed. Right now, the easiest types of material that can be printed is plastic, but it's just recently that liquid metal was used to produce something in 3D. So where can you find these 3D printers? For free, you can find them at some of these museums, like the Newark Museum. I think the Liberty Science Center does it. A few public libraries in New Jersey does it. Piscataway Library. I think somewhere in Monroe they have one as well. Now, if you wanted to purchase it or have some of your things made for a cost, you can do that. Staples just actually started to sell 3D printers. And Shapeways and iMaterialize are companies where you can upload your drawings and they produce it for you. And Makeebox is actually one of the cheapest 3D printers out there. It's $200, but at the same time, you're only creating those little tiny trinket ones. So an example of Shapeway is you can do two things on this site. You can have them create your 3D material as well as sell it for you. So not only can you have your creations come to life, but you can also sell them. And the same thing goes for iMaterialize. So now in the news, I'm sure these are a few things that you have been hearing about in the news. The one is the 3D gun template. There was a man who, and I'm sure he's not the only one, but there was a man who created a 3D template of a gun. The government got a hold of it. They didn't like it. It was too realistic. They asked him to take it down. So he did. He took it down, but he said, I took it down, but over 1 million people already downloaded this template, so what's going to stop them from doing it? So that's a big thing going on in the news right now with regulations and what type of regulations should there be. Another thing that's been buzzed about a lot is copyright infringement. People are taking, scans of, franchise things like Yoda or Barbie, and they're making their own. Is that considered copyright infringement? How are they going to control these things? These are things that are still the unknown part of the 3D printing industry. And last but certainly not least, the future of 3D printing. Something pretty interesting that just happened is that NASA actually hired this company to do some research to discover how they can use 3D printing to create food so that when their astronauts are up in space, they can stay there longer and use 3D printed food. Another thing that we might be seeing in the future is everyone having a 3D printer. As they become cheaper, as they become more efficient, your 3D printer might replace your regular printer. Who knows? Something that's kind of just art right now is 3D printing of clothes, but as they become more advanced in finding new ways to produce different types of material for 3D printing, I definitely see this as something that's going to be happening in the future, 3D printed clothing. And definitely one of the most important futures of 3D printing is 3D printing in the medical field. I know researchers are working on stem cells, 3D printed stem cells, 3D printing organs, 3D printing so that people who are on the organ donors list can get off those lists pretty quickly and get what they need. So those are the top 10 things that you need to know about 3D printing. If you have any questions, definitely shoot me an email. I will send this presentation to you so you can view it at your own time again, and send you your digital certificate. Thanks again for viewing.